So, today's video I'm doing something really different. I am doing a video where I am in bed, obviously. That's weird. I don't really do a ton of videos in bed. And then the other thing is that I am going to talk to you guys about my dance history, kind of like where I came from, what type of dancing I did. I haven't talked a whole ton about it on this channel. I've talked a little bit. But I've talked about it more in terms of like a factual sense. I've talked about it more with like, oh, this is the type of dance I did. Or like, I don't even think I've told you guys what type of dancing I did. I think I've just said, oh, I danced from like this time to this time and I stopped because of injuries. But I haven't talked a whole lot about it. And it's always weird to me that like I've been on YouTube for like a year and a half and I've never talked about how big of a deal dancing was in my life and how much time I spent doing it and really how big of a chunk of my life was spent dancing. It's weird because a lot of people are very surprised, and it's always weird to me to be like, whoa, these people like that I've talked to for so long don't even know that about me. Some people do, and if they dig, they do, but it's just weird. And like today is one of those days. Do you guys ever have those days where like, I'm sure you do, everyone does, where just like you just, everything like hits you and you aren't quite sure why. It's like you didn't sleep well and then you did this and then you did that and then you got a ticket and then you got this, and you know, today is totally one of those days for me. So yeah, I think I will start at the beginning. So my parents, I think the earliest story I've heard of me dancing was when I was like 1 year old, and me and my parents were at this hotel in Florida, and apparently there was like a Jamaican band playing, and my mom and dad took me out of the pool, and I had like my diaper under my little bikini, and it was like a little polka dotted bikini, and they set me down on the concrete right outside the pool, and apparently I started like dancing. I was like dancing to the beat, and my dad said like a whole crowd formed around me, and they were like, wow, this little 1 year old has so much rhythm, and it's just, yeah, it's funny. They always tell me that story. So I've loved music my whole life. Music, it's funny because for as much as I've always loved it, it's been a hard relationship me and music have for like the last year and a half, just because of everything that has happened with my dancing. So I guess the earliest memories I have of dance class were probably like ballet tap combo classes, you know what I mean? When you're a little kid and you take like a class and like half of it is ballet and half of it is tap. And I liked it. My mom says I used it more for like social hour and talking to everyone, but I think it was more just because music made me happy and dancing made me happy, and so I just wanted to talk to everyone and like become friends with everyone and all that. Yeah, so I don't really know at what age I started training for dance, like when it became like a full-time thing. It feels like it was full-time for a long time, but I know that it wasn't full-time forever because I also used to do gymnastics and other things like synchronized swimming and diving in the midst of my dancing, so it couldn't have been, it wasn't full-time, because when I was doing full-time dancing, I was dancing like almost the same amount of hours as a job, and if I wasn't dancing at dance class, I was working a dance gig. Now, I have to back up and say, I also sing and I also act, and I've also done both of those things forever, for just as long as I've been a dancer. I just spent a lot more time training as a dancer than I did for the other things, because I'm not really sure why. I think because like there's undisputed techniques to being a singer or to being a dancer. And there is a technique for singing as well, and there are different techniques for acting, but those were the things that I was able to more fly by the seat of my pants with. Like I could keep tune, you know, to a song. I had good pitch and I knew rhythm, and so I could sing. And then like I just like to play pretend, so I could do the basics of acting. But with dance, you can't just like, oh, I just like to move and then go into a ballet class. You have to learn ballet. So I spent a lot more time dancing in lessons than I did in singing and acting, but I did both for a long time. So anyways, I'd say it was probably how old am I right now? Until I was 22. It was probably a 10-year span of dancing full-time, and that included lots of different classes. I was at the studio typically Monday through Saturday, and I was doing everything from ballet, like I said, jazz, hip-hop, tap, contemporary, when it was lyrical back then. Everything. I did everything. And my biggest strength was tap dancing. I have really good rhythm. It's the only part of dance that came easy to me. Like, it's the only thing that it's like very innate to me, because I have pretty good control over my feet. Like, even in terms of, like, I always had a really high arch in ballet, which an arch, for those of you that aren't dancers, are like when you see someone point their feet. I like almost want to show my point. Is that weird? I'll show my point because I have a really defined point. So this is going to be so weird to anyone who is not a dancer. But to anyone who is, you'll find it entertaining. Can you guys see? So yeah, so anyways, like I said, tapping was the only thing that ever came naturally to me. It was the only thing that was super easy. And then second to that, surprisingly, for how white I am, was hip hop. And I think the reason those were the easiest is because those were the things that didn't involve as much like technique. They just involved like, I think they involve more of like the creative. Not that ballet and all that stuff isn't creative, because it is, but you are following more of a technique, whereas you could maybe hop into the other things if you just are like creative and have rhythm. And I think that's why those were my strong suits. Ooh, this light keeps dimming on my computer. So tap was my favorite. I remember as a little girl, I used to tape on VHS Shirley Temple movies, and I remember I would tape them on our little VHS downstairs, and I would play them, and I would always tape them on the Family Channel before it was ABC Family and before they became like the same thing. And I would play them, and I would learn the dances that Shirley Temple would do. And I remember I learned this one tap dance. I think she did it with Bojangles, like up the stairs. And I went and I learned this tap dance up the stairs in my parents' old condo. So I have lots of memories. I think I have more. As a little kid, I have more memories creating things, like creating dances at home, doing plays in the neighborhood, teaching kids dances, than I do actually in class. And I think that's because my memories, and I think a lot of memories that stick, like I heard this the other day, memories, you have to have emotion with memories for them to stick. So I don't have a whole lot of emotion with ballet class. Certain ballet classes I do, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, but in general, I don't. So I think that's why a lot of those dancing memories and performing memories have stuck, because there is emotion attached to it. And like, I just had fun as a kid creating. That's one thing that has like, I never realized, I didn't think I was crazy creative, and sometimes I still don't feel super creative, but I realized recently that that's a theme that has stayed consistent in my life, that one thing I genuinely enjoy doing is creating. I like to create, and the outlet for that has changed multiple times, you know, but I think the reason I never feel creative is because like the things that I do the best at, nobody considers that a creative category. Like, I'm really good at creating things that make people feel good. And I've done that since I was a little kid. I would do dances, and the ones that were like really feel good, happy ones, those are the ones that people were always like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. But you wouldn't necessarily consider that creative. But I'm realizing that a theme throughout my life, when I did synchronized swimming, when I did gymnastics, when I was dancing, when I was singing and acting, is that I always wanted to create something. So I guess that means I was creative. But anyways, I have lots of memories of that as a kid, learning dances off videos. I remember I did like my 14th or 13th birthday party. I like wrote a play, and I invited everyone to my birthday party, and before they came, I sent them scripts with their parts highlighted. And for my birthday party, we all acted out the scripts that I sent everyone and filmed them. And I don't know, I've just kind of always been like that. So anyways, back on track to dancing. I guess I can talk about all those things that I was talking about a second ago in like a different video or whatever. But anyways, back to dancing. So my lower half of my body, which is where the majority of my injuries are from, those injuries started taking place when I was like 13, 14.